Caught, he's made, solving a $200 million problem in seconds. What the CEO did next shocked the entire company. The city outside was asleep, blanketed in silence, but inside the penthouse of Ethan Kross, lights still burned. It was nearly 2 a.m., and the CEO of one of the most powerful tech firms in the country was pacing his study in frustration. The launch of a flagship project, one worth over $200 million, had ground to a halt. For weeks, the system had been malfunctioning. No one could figure out why. His engineers, consultants, even the best freelancers he could hire, none had found the answer. Time was running out, and so was his patience. In the quiet kitchen, Ethan moved to pour himself another coffee, but just as he reached for the pot, a faint, rhythmic clicking sound caught his attention. He froze. It was the sound of someone typing. He turned toward the hallway, the sound growing louder as he approached the study. No one should have been in there, certainly not at this hour. He pushed the door open, and there she was, Lily, the new maid, blonde, young, polite, and quiet. She had been working at the penthouse for just under 2 weeks. Ethan had barely exchanged more than a few words with her, but now she was sitting at his desk, typing furiously, eyes fixed on the glowing screen. "What the hell are you doing?" Ethan's voice cracked through the silence, sharp and commanding. Lily jolted upright, her hands flying away from the keyboard. She looked like a child caught somewhere she shouldn't be. I'm sorry," she stammered, stepping back from the chair. "I didn't mean to." "You're not supposed to touch that," Ethan said, moving toward the desk. His expression was unreadable, but his voice carried an edge. "I know, I really am sorry," Lily said quickly. "I just saw something that looked wrong. I wasn't trying to interfere." Ethan leaned over the screen, annoyed, until his eyes scanned the lines she had touched. Then he stopped. The section she had been working on had plagued his team for weeks. Somehow, in just minutes, she had corrected it. Not only that, but the structure, her changes. They were clean, elegant, flawless. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He double-checked, triple-checked. She was right. His mind reeled. "How did you even know what you were looking at?" "I studied computer science," Lily said, her voice quiet. "A while ago. I had to drop out." Ethan stared at her. "Where?" he asked. "MIT," she replied. "But I didn't graduate. My mom got sick. We lost our home. I took whatever work I could find." There was no pride in her voice, just fact. Ethan looked at her again, really looked. She didn't just fix a problem. She saw something his team of engineers had missed for weeks, and she had done it without asking for anything in return. Lily stood there, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. "I didn't mean to step out of line. I'll leave now if you want." He didn't answer right away. He was still staring at the screen. "You rewrote that entire function," he said eventually. "That one mistake was costing us a fortune." Lily shifted awkwardly. "I only changed a few things. I didn't mean to touch anything important." Ethan let out a breath and slowly turned toward her. "You just saved a multi-million-dollar project." Her eyes widened. "I did?" He nodded once, still stunned. "I'm sorry," she said again, voice trembling. Ethan shook his head, this time more slowly. "Don't apologize." Lily blinked, unsure of what to say. He stepped back from the desk, running a hand through his hair. The room was quiet again, but different now. Charged. After a long pause, he looked at her. "You're not just a maid," he said softly. Lily gave a weak smile. "No," she whispered, "but it's all I am right now." Ethan nodded slowly. "Maybe not for long." And with that he turned and walked out of the room, his mind racing with thoughts none louder than this. He had just witnessed something extraordinary, and he had no intention of letting it go unnoticed. Ethan Kross had made his career reading people. He could spot arrogance disguised as confidence, mediocrity hidden behind flashy degrees, and ambition fueled by nothing but ego. But Lily Brooks, she was a puzzle that refused to be solved at a glance. The next morning, while the city below buzzed with suits and stress, Ethan sat in his office with his assistant's report in hand. There was little to find. No college degree, no official certifications, a few short-term jobs, waitressing, retail, janitorial work. Currently working for a domestic staffing agency part-time. She lived in a modest apartment on the edge of the city, in a neighborhood most executives avoided. But one detail stood out like a red flag. Lily had once been enrolled at MIT, computer science, top 10% of her class, then withdrawn. No reason listed. That alone explained everything, and nothing. Later that evening, Ethan found her wiping the marble stairs outside his study. She worked with focus, her hands swift but precise, as if even dust didn't deserve to stay where it wasn't supposed to be. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked casually. Lily looked up, startled to see him there. "Cleaning? A few years, on and off. And before that?" She paused, then gave a small smile. "School." "What happened?" he asked. She hesitated. "Life. My dad made some bad investments, lost everything. My mom's health declined, bills piled up. I dropped out to help," he nodded. "MIT, right?" Her eyes widened. "You looked me up?" "I look up everyone who touches my code," he said, only half joking. Lily gave a soft, resigned laugh. "It feels like a lifetime ago." Ethan studied her face. She wasn't bitter, just tired. The kind of fatigue that did not come from mopping floors, but from carrying too much for too long. That night, after she left, Ethan opened a folder from a lower-level analyst team, one he knew she might come across while tidying his desk. Inside, he inserted a deliberately flawed snippet of code. It wasn't overly complex, but tricky enough to trip up someone without a trained eye. The next morning, the file was back in place, with one handwritten note tucked neatly inside. "Fixed validation loop error. Hope that's okay." No signature, just quiet brilliance. She had solved it in less than 10 minutes. He did not say a word, but from that day forward, he started noticing everything. The way she adjusted his grandfather clock when it ran 4 minutes fast, without being asked. The way she organized the books in his study by subject, then by author. The way she paused for a moment when passing his late mother's photo on the hallway table, gently wiping the frame as if it mattered more than the glass beneath it. She was invisible to most, but Ethan saw her, and it was becoming harder to look away. Not just because she had a rare intellect, but because she never acted like she did. In a world full of people who demanded to be seen, Lily hid her light under layers of humility and survival. He caught her once, humming softly while folding laundry, completely unaware that he had been standing there watching her for nearly a full minute. There was something heartbreakingly serene about her, like someone who had made peace with the fact that no one would ever applaud her. That night, as he sat alone in his home office, staring at the latest crash report from the development team, his mind wandered back to the line she had written just days earlier. Not just the correction, but the confidence behind it. She had seen what 10 senior engineers had missed, and yet here she was, scrubbing sinks and emptying trash bins. Ethan leaned back in his chair and whispered aloud, "You don't belong in that uniform." But he knew Lily wouldn't be the one to take it off. If anything were going to change, it would have to start with him. Ethan Cross was not a man who believed in luck. He believed in systems, structure, testing, and data. And right now, the only data point he could not fully explain was Lily, so he began running his own tests. Quietly, subtly, he continued slipping coded puzzles and logic traps into files she might stumble across during her cleaning shifts, sometimes left open on his screen, sometimes half buried in a pile on his desk. They weren't easy. Each one grew more advanced than the last, and every time, without fail, she solved them. Each correction came with the same humble pencil note written in the margin. "Not sure if this helps, but maybe," or "Sorry if this is wrong, just a thought." She'd never signed her name, never claimed credit, never asked questions. She just helped. Ethan stopped trying to convince himself it was coincidence. He started staying home more often, citing remote meetings or late-night reports. But in truth, it was because he had begun looking forward to the soft knock on his office door, or the quiet way she'd refill his coffee without needing to be asked, or the quick, almost apologetic smile she gave before vanishing down the hall. Sometimes he would manufacture little reasons to interact with her. "My printer's jammed again. Could you bring another notebook? The ones with the grid paper?" "The coffee maker's acting up." She never questioned why a billionaire CEO needed so much assistance with mundane tasks. She just nodded, stepped in, and somehow made it all work. One night, Ethan sat at his desk reviewing a team diagnostic report. The entire back-end system was still unstable. His lead engineers were blaming corrupted modules, but no one could agree on the source. He heard Lily enter quietly behind him, wiping a table near the corner. She glanced briefly at his screen and paused. Ethan, pretending to read, didn't say a word. Then, softly, she spoke. "I think it's not the code." Ethan looked up. "Excuse me?" She stepped closer, almost hesitant. "The issue, it's probably not in the code itself, it's how the data's being routed. Something's clogging the flow between the security module and the data cache. It's like a traffic jam caused by too many verification calls." He stared at her. That exact hypothesis had been floated and dismissed in the first week of analysis. His entire engineering team had moved on to other theories. But Lily had said it with a kind of quiet certainty that demanded attention. "You're suggesting the bottleneck is in the access permissions queue?" he asked carefully. She nodded. "The more layers of encryption you add without restructuring the priority, the more likely the calls stack and time out. The system starts blocking its own progress." Ethan turned fully toward her now. "How do you know that?" Lily flushed. "I built a system like that once, in school. It froze up under load. It took me a week to realize I was verifying everything twice." He said nothing for a moment, then he swiveled back to the screen, opened the diagnostic matrix, and began scanning the input streams. Sure enough, the lag corresponded almost perfectly with the security ping intervals. His jaw tightened. 3 weeks? My entire team has been chasing the wrong trail for 3 weeks. Lily stepped back, as if afraid she had overstepped. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything." "No," he cut in, standing slowly. "Don't apologize. You were right." She looked down, biting her lip. Ethan exhaled. "You just did in 30 seconds what $1 million in salaries could not." Lily shook her head. "I just saw the pattern." "You saw what no one else could," he replied, his voice quieter now. "And you said it out loud. That matters." Their eyes met across the dimly lit room. In that moment, Ethan realized something. He had underestimated her not because she was invisible, but because he had never thought to truly see her, and now he could not look away. Ethan waited until the end of the week. Lily had just finished vacuuming the hallway outside his study when he stepped into the doorway holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You have a moment?" he asked. She looked startled but nodded. "Of course." He led her into the room and gestured toward the chair across from his desk. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable sitting in a space that, until now, had only belonged to silence and distance. "I wanted to ask you something," he said as he sat. "Something important." Lily shifted in her seat, her posture cautious. "Okay. I'd like you to consider working with me, not as a cleaner, as a technical assistant. Temporary, flexible hours. Just help me troubleshoot some things you already understand better than most of my engineers." She stared at him, stunned. "You want me to work for you?" "You already are," Ethan said with a soft smile, "just without the title." "Or the pay." Lily looked down. "Mr. Cross, I'm flattered, but I can't. I'm not qualified. I never even finished my degree. I'm just—" "Don't," he interrupted, his tone firmer now. "Don't let that uniform define you." She blinked, caught off guard. "You've solved critical errors. You've seen patterns no one else did, and you never once asked for credit. That's not just intelligence, that's integrity. That's rare." Lily's lips parted, but no words came out. She stared at her hands, folded tightly in her lap. "I won't pressure you," Ethan added gently. "But if you ever change your mind, the offer stands." She nodded once, almost imperceptibly. That night, he left a folder on his desk with notes from a broken beta test. It was intentional, placed where only Lily would notice. In the morning, the test was fixed. A new function was scribbled in pencil on the edge of the page. Ethan didn't say anything, and neither did she. It became an unspoken routine. At night, Lily would quietly fix what no one else could. By morning, Ethan would report progress to the executive team, shielding her name, her presence, her brilliance. Not out of shame, out of protection. She wasn't ready, but he was willing to wait. One morning, Lily entered the study to find the room empty, but on the desk was a small tray, a sandwich, fruit, a glass of juice, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. Beside it was a handwritten note. "Don't skip breakfast, just because you're always thinking of others." She smiled, truly smiled, and for the first time in a long while, her hands trembled, not from exhaustion, but from something warmer, gratitude, and the faintest shimmer of hope. She ate in silence. That night, she left a sticky note on the edge of the laptop. "Thank you, it was perfect." Ethan found it hours later, and something in him shifted, not because of what she wrote, but because she had finally written back. The tension in the boardroom was thick, almost electric. Ethan stood at the head of the long, gleaming table, flanked by department heads and senior engineers, each more impatient than the last. The latest project, one that had been hemorrhaging millions, was now back on track, stable, functional, weeks ahead of the new deadline. And no one could explain how. They had reviewed the update logs. Ethan had delivered the fixes himself, but the logic, the elegance of the solution didn't match the hands that had typed it. "Ethan," one board member said, arms folded, "we appreciate your leadership, but someone wrote those lines of code. We'd like to meet this anonymous asset you keep referencing." Murmurs of agreement followed. "I'm not comfortable parading someone who prefers to stay private," Ethan said evenly. "Let's focus on the success." "This company doesn't run on ghosts," another cut in. "We deserve to meet the person who saved it." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had promised himself and Lily that her identity would remain protected, that he would not expose her before she was ready. But this wasn't just about secrecy anymore. It was about honor, about giving credit where it was long overdue. After a long pause, he finally nodded. "I'll arrange it." The next morning, Lily arrived at headquarters in her usual uniform, black slacks, plain blouse, hair pulled back neatly. Ethan had asked her to come in early, just to tidy the main floor. She had no idea what was waiting. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation. Executives and senior staff gathered in formal wear. The lights dimmed as Ethan took the stage. "Before we begin today's quarterly briefing," he said, "I'd like to share a story. Not about numbers or projections, but about a person." The room quieted. A few months ago, this company faced the biggest threat to its future since its founding. A core system failure was bleeding us. Solutions were attempted, millions spent. Nothing worked. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd, and then, out of nowhere, a miracle happened. A fix, a flawless solution. Not from our labs, not from our engineers. He gestured toward the back of the hall. Lily stood there, holding a cleaning cloth and a bucket, frozen. "Would you join me, Lily?" She blinked, stunned. A few heads turned, some whispered. Slowly, hesitantly, she walked toward the stage. Ethan extended his hand to help her up. "This," he said, "is Lily Brooks. She was hired to sweep our floors. Instead, she rewrote the very code that saved our company." Dead silence. Then, one clap. Then another. And suddenly the hall erupted into applause, a standing ovation. Lily stood beside Ethan, clearly overwhelmed. "I didn't mean to. I was just—" she began, her voice trembling. Ethan gently handed her a mic. "You don't need to explain. Just let them see you." She shook her head, eyes glistening. "I never thought I'd stand in a room like this again." Ethan smiled softly. "That's because you never should have left it." She looked at him, gratitude and disbelief flooding her expression. The applause continued. In that moment, something changed, not just for Lily, but for everyone watching. The lines between hierarchy and humanity blurred. A girl who once cleaned their windows had become the reason they still had jobs. And the man who brought her forward? He wasn't just the CEO anymore. He was something more. It had been a week since the day Lily's name echoed through the conference hall like a thunderclap. Since then, reporters had called, offers had poured in, universities, companies, even venture capitalists had reached out, everyone wanting a piece of the genius who had saved a $200 million zero-cents project from collapse. But Lily remained grounded, continuing her quiet routines, staying out of the spotlight as much as she could, until Ethan called her into his office. "MIT reached out," he said, sliding a letter across the desk. "They're offering to reinstate your scholarship." Lily stared at the envelope, unmoving. "They'll even give you credit for prior coursework," he added. "You could finish your degree in under 2 years." She smiled faintly, but the hesitation in her eyes was immediate. "I can't go back," she said softly. "Why not?" "My mother," she replied. "She's stable now, but not well. If I leave town, there's no one to care for her. I won't leave her again." Ethan studied her, then nodded. "Okay." She looked at him, surprised. "Okay, I understand," he said simply. "But just know, when you're ready, the door is open." She left the office with the letter in hand, unsure whether to feel grateful or disappointed. Mostly she felt torn, between a dream she'd long buried and a responsibility she had never resented carrying. 2 weeks later, Lily received a call from the care center. "Your mother's new specialist is starting this afternoon," the nurse said. "Also, a private care nurse has been assigned to her, fully covered." Lily froze. "What? I didn't arrange that." "It's already been approved," the nurse replied. "Anonymous sponsorship." That night, Lily sat beside her mother's hospital bed, watching her sleep peacefully. The stress that had once creased her mother's forehead had faded, replaced with a serenity Lily hadn't seen in years. She knew there was only one person who could have done this. The next day, she stormed into Ethan's office without knocking. He looked up, surprised by the urgency in her eyes. "You paid for my mother's treatment," she said. He didn't deny it. "She deserves the best care." Lily's voice cracked. "You should have told me." Ethan stood, walking around the desk. "Would you have accepted it if I had?" She swallowed hard, her hands shaking. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "Because you deserve a life, Lily. A real one," he said, his voice low, steady. "Not just surviving, not just hiding. And because—" He hesitated, then took a step closer. "I want to see you shine." Tears welled in her eyes. She had spent so long being invisible, so long proving herself quietly, with no one noticing, no one caring, and now here was a man who saw her, completely. Later that night, Lily returned home and found a small box waiting on her desk. Inside was a sleek, brand-new laptop, elegant, lightweight, state-of-the-art. On the keyboard sat a folded note, handwritten in neat script. "This is the first keyboard to ever save $200 million, 0 cents. Thought it belonged to you." She smiled, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Not just because of the gift, but because of what it meant. She was finally free to choose her future. And for the first time, she truly believed she had one. Lily walked through the gleaming halls of the R&D department like a shadow in sunlight, quiet, focused, and deeply present. She never wore expensive heels, never raised her voice, never sought credit. Yet every room she entered seemed to take notice now, even if the acknowledgement came in the form of respectful nods or chairs quietly scooting aside to make space for her at the table. She had officially joined the company as a technical consultant, but no plaque or title could fully describe her presence. She carried something more powerful than credentials: trust. Earned, not claimed. Ethan watched her from the corner of his eye as she leaned over a junior developer's monitor, gently pointing out a logic flaw without embarrassment or superiority. The younger woman smiled in gratitude, nodding eagerly. She belonged here, he thought, and the world was finally beginning to see it. One morning, Ethan approached her desk with a printed agenda in hand. "You're presenting with me next week at the West Coast Tech Innovation Summit," he said. Lily looked up, startled. "Wait, what?" "You heard me," he said, a subtle grin playing on his lips. Her eyes widened. "I've never spoken at anything like that." "You've never needed to," he replied. "But now you do. You'll be speaking alongside me, not behind me." Lily stared at the agenda. Her name was listed right below his. She hesitated. "What if I say something wrong?" Ethan tilted his head. "Then we'll fix it together." The days leading up to the event passed in a blur of prep sessions, slide reviews, and last-minute jitters. Lily rehearsed every line, but Ethan encouraged her to speak from instinct, not script. "They need to hear your voice, not mine," he said. "They've heard me talk 100 times." On the day of the summit, Lily stood backstage in a simple navy blue dress and flat black shoes. Her hair was pulled back neatly, her hands trembling slightly around the flash drive in her pocket. Around her buzzed a sea of sharp suits, cocktail dresses, camera crews, and glossy name tags, but she wasn't here to impress. She was here to be heard. Ethan stepped onto the stage first, welcomed by applause and a glowing screen behind him. He delivered a powerful address on hidden innovation, the kind that comes not from loud rooms and loud people, but from quiet resilience and quiet brilliance. Then he turned to the side, smiled, and extended his hand. "And now," he said, "I'd like to introduce someone whose impact you already feel, but whose story you've yet to hear." Lily stepped into the light. At first the room went still. She didn't look like a typical speaker. No power suit, no flashy slides, just clarity. She stood in front of the mic, took a breath, and began. Her voice was soft but sure as she walked the audience through the architecture of the system she helped repair. She didn't dwell on code alone. She spoke about human patterns, about how broken systems often mirrored broken communication. She explained how she approached problems not just as puzzles, but as stories. "I believe good software shouldn't make people feel small," she said. "It should feel like someone's listening." The applause was slow at first, then thunderous. Backstage, as the lights dimmed and people began moving toward the next session, Ethan met her in the wings. She looked dazed, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "You did it," he said simply. "I thought I'd faint," she replied. "But you didn't," he smiled, taking her hand. He looked down at her, fingers laced in hers. "No one knows," he said quietly, "that the woman in the simple dress today once cleaned the floor of this very room." She stared at him. "And yet," he continued, "here you are, rewriting what it means to belong." Lily's throat tightened. "Thank you for not letting me stay invisible." Ethan leaned in, voice low. "I couldn't. You were the only one I saw." In a building filled with visionaries, with lights, sound, and thunderous applause, for Ethan Cross, there was only her. The auditorium shimmered beneath a canopy of gold and silver lights, casting a warm glow over the sea of elegantly dressed guests gathered for the prestigious Innovators of the Future Gala. It was the kind of night where history felt close, etched into the air, waiting for the right moment to descend. The stage sparkled with polished marble, and the screens behind it scrolled through the names of nominees, each one brighter, louder, more decorated than the last. But tucked quietly in the back row, almost invisible in the grandeur, sat Lily Brooks. She wore a midnight blue gown, simple, timeless. Her blonde hair was pinned back in a soft twist, revealing a face both nervous and luminous. She looked less like an industry icon and more like someone who had wandered into the wrong room, but Ethan, seated beside her, knew better. He had never been more certain that she belonged anywhere she chose to be. She hadn't prepared a speech. She hadn't expected her name to even be mentioned. To her, the nomination alone felt like a miracle she would cherish and let pass without expectation. And then the presenter opened the final envelope of the night. The award for Most Influential Young Innovator of the Year goes to, a pause, smile, Lily Brooks. The room hushed, just for a moment, as if the air itself was stunned. Lily sat frozen, her breath caught. She didn't move until Ethan reached over and gently squeezed her hand. "Go," he whispered, voice low and certain. "This moment is yours." She stood slowly, her knees trembling beneath the soft fabric of her dress. As the audience erupted into applause, she made her way down the long carpeted aisle, each step echoing with memories of floors once mopped and code once written in secret. When she reached the stage, the host stepped back respectfully, and she stood at the podium with a look that hovered between awe and disbelief. The lights hit her face, but she didn't squint. She steadied herself. And then she spoke. "I never thought I'd be standing here," Lily began, her voice fragile but unwavering. "For years I hid, behind mop handles, behind excuses, behind fear. I used to believe that brilliance needed a title or a degree to be seen." She paused, searching the room, as if speaking to the version of herself who once worked quietly in shadows. "But sometimes," she continued, "brilliance looks like staying up late to solve something no one asked you to. Sometimes it's doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. Sometimes it's just having the courage to try one more time." A stillness settled across the room. Then came a wave of soft, heartfelt applause. She swallowed back tears. "But I didn't do this alone," she added. "Someone saw me before I saw myself. Someone believed I belonged in the light, even when I wasn't ready to step into it." She glanced toward Ethan in the audience, and for a second, her heart stopped, because he wasn't in the audience anymore. He was walking onto the stage. Dressed in a classic black tuxedo, Ethan Cross moved with quiet confidence, one hand behind his back, the other casually slipping into his pocket. Lily blinked in confusion. "Ethan?" she said softly. He stood beside her now, smiling. "You saved our systems," he said. "You saved this company. You've saved jobs and futures and an entire legacy." Then, gently, his voice shifted. "But more than that, you saved me." He pulled his hand from behind his back, revealing a small velvet box. "You didn't just fix broken code," he said, opening it slowly, the soft glint of a diamond catching the stage light. "You fixed something in me that I didn't know was broken." A hush fell over the entire room. "Lily," Ethan said, his voice steady and full of quiet emotion. "Will you marry me?" Lily gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth, tears springing to her eyes as the world faded around her. She could only nod, over and over, before finally whispering the word, "Yes." The audience rose in thunderous applause as Ethan slipped the ring onto her trembling finger. She threw her arms around him, laughing and crying all at once. In that moment, beneath the lights and cameras and the echo of celebration, there was no company, no crowd, just the girl who once swept the floors, and the man who had always seen her shining. The next morning, headlines lit up, "From Code to Commitment, the Maid Who Saved a Company and Captured its CEO's Heart." Where love and logic met, a story of brilliance, humility, and an unforgettable yes. And for the first time, the world saw Lily and Ethan not just as innovators, but as a reminder that real genius begins with grace, and that sometimes the most powerful love stories begin not with power, but with being seen. Thank you for watching this unforgettable journey, from silent brilliance to spotlight, from quiet resilience to a love that changed everything. Lily's story reminds us that sometimes the greatest minds aren't found in boardrooms, but behind the scenes, and that love, when it's true, sees beyond uniforms, titles, and expectations. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories, where we bring you emotional tales that inspire, heal, and remind you of the quiet power of kindness and courage. Until next time, keep believing, because even the smallest voice can rewrite the biggest destiny.